Good. We're just gonna make it casual.
No kidding.
Does the camera make you nervous?
No. Now I'm laughing.
Hello, welcome. Keith Brady here with On Healthcare. Today I'm joined by a guest by the name of Larry Fox. I call him Lab Guy Larry. I call him Larry the Lab because he is the lab guru. So I got him in here today because I love lab. It's one of my favorite things to sell into the physician practice. And Larry is a wealth of knowledge. I usually bring him in when we need somebody to really guide the physician along the way, show them the way that things have to properly be done, and you can kind of talk through the process when you're on board. But why don't you say hello, introduce yourself, and...
Hi, I'm Larry. He just introduced me, the lab guru, and they do call me that. And what I do is I set up physician office labs and other types of laboratories. And I've been doing it for 34 years. And I love what I do, so I don't work a day in my life. I help physicians increase their value to their patients and help bring revenue shifted from the big labs like Quest and LabCorp, that billion-dollar companies, and I bring it into the physician office laboratory. And I make sure that all labs that I help set up are as good, if not better, than Quest or LabCorp. And how is that possible? Because when you have to send a specimen out, it has to be transported. The lab misplaces specimens. It's a day old. And the physicians can actually do the lab same day, and it really does improve patient health care.
Yeah, and that's certainly what I like to focus on the channel, is really looking at two things: is, how do you improve the patient experience and patient care, and then obviously how do you generate new revenue for the practice. I think one thing we know today is that practices are hurting for revenue, right?
What's great is we don't increase healthcare costs, we just shift it. Because a lot of physicians don't even want to bring on lab. Either one, they're afraid of the regulations, or two, they attempted it and it failed. Well, I make sure, first of all, you don't even open a lab unless I make sure it makes sense profit-wise. And then I make sure the quality is there. So, and I help find the good lab techs. And then I oversee the laboratories on a monthly basis or whenever there's a problem.
Let's talk quickly about failure, because I do find that many of the physicians that I've worked with over the years, you got some who can wrap their head around starting a lab, right? Having this whole new arm of the practice, because it really is another business under the roof of their existing business. You need staff, there's capital expenses, there's a lot of maintenance and overhead that's associated with it. But on the upside, as we said before, better patient care, reimbursement. But let's talk about why does some labs fail?
A lab will fail. One, they don't want to invest in money. Or two, they were just really too small to start with. And I will not open a lab. And then we've discussed it if they're too small to open.
Right. And plenty of times we've looked at scenarios for physician practices to say, is this a fit? And we're not in the business of selling something to somebody that's not going to work. 2, 3, 4 years down the road, once that practice grows, once they get more patients in the door, it may make sense.
50 is a break-even point. Usually it's about 1/3 of the patients that come in get lab work.
Wow.
So I want, so 100 a week. So it's more than 30. Well, you add 150 a week. And the first thing I do is evaluate the patient population, the specimens. So it's really a specimen driven. Yeah.
And you can get those reports right from the
Quest, LabCorp, Enzo bought by Quest, but the reference lab. And it used to be one doctor could run a lab, but now you need 2, 3 providers at least. And then you start to, the more providers, the more profitable the lab will be.
What are you seeing today, 2023? We're in May 2023. Right. Today, I guess, where are you seeing, I guess, the best homes for labs? Are you seeing it in primary care? Are you seeing it in...
Multi-specialties is the best, because primary care, endocrinology, cardiology, and rheumatology. Although there are not many rheumatologists, but those are the big laboratory users that... And my rheumatologist is probably the most profitable, and they're doing very extensive menus.
Walk us through a scenario where you've seen a great success story with rheumatology. What are they running? What's the...
Oh, they're running autoimmune tests. They're doing, SSA, SSB. They're also running the full chemistries and the lipid profiles. Some are even doing some drug testing because they give pain meds to their patients. Just to screen, nothing fancy. Right. But the autoimmune tests are very profitable. They do ANAs, and they do microscopic ANAs too. So those are the type of tests. My rheumatologists tend to be the most profitable of all my labs. Right. But when I met the drugstore rheumatologist, it's just a little chemical screen, 10 tests, down to say make sure they don't have cocaine in them. And, I'll tell you a funny story. A doctor came to me and said, Larry, I got a positive cocaine on a 78-year-old woman. He was a rheumatologist. So I sent it out for confirmation, and it came back positive. So he brought the patient in and says, what are you doing? She goes, well, once a week I go out with the girls and we do a little coke. And he said, you do coke again, I'm firing you as a patient. And he goes, your heart's going to explode out of your chest. Oh. So the doctors, they do a drug screen just to make sure if they're prescribing, pain meds, that they're not doing anything like that, cocaine or heroin or something like that. But that was the funniest story I've ever heard.
Wow.
But he was very grateful that I brought in that testing thing.
And this is what a lab allows you to do. It allows you to get the untold stories from your patient. And it's really true.
Yeah.
I mean, when you do have that data at your fingertips, you are able to kind of put together a health profile on a patient right then and there, and then have those conversations, right? Like, to find out that she was doing cocaine at 78 years old. Yeah, I was sure that's probably the last thing that
he expected. Well, that's why, because when you do a drug screen in an office, any positive need to be confirmed, because the mass spec is like a fingerprint to tell you exactly what they're using. So they just send out the confirmations, and that's what you do.
There's 3 levels of complexity to the lab, which I think we should just address. There's CLIA waived, which I think, as most know, are just the simple tests like strep and flu, RSV, results typically in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, simple swabs, very low liability. Then you jump up to moderately complex, and that's where we work together most, is on the moderate.
95% of the tests you send out to the reference lab, I could bring in-house, and that's all moderate. So the mass spec confirmation for the urine is highly complex. I can still bring it in. I've set it up. But you have to do a lot of patients to make sense.
Right. That's a big deal.
Yeah. So highly complex is a very small percent. Used to be a lot bigger years ago, but it's a very small percentage of what you would do would be highly complex.
Right.
So then we're in the moderate complex area.
So as far as going moderate, sometimes I speak to doctors and we're talking about, STI testing, or we're talking about immunoassays.
Right.
And the second they hear moderate, they get scared, like as if it's something that they just don't want to have anything to do with. Can you debunk?
Debunk it easily. First off, all the doctor can qualify, the physician can qualify, one of his partners can qualify as lab director by taking a 20-hour online course. And that's big labor.
That's the prereq, right? That's what you need as a lab director, and all that they need to do is take a 20-hour course. I've heard of physicians getting it done in 10 hours.
Yeah, well, I don't know how they do that, but
well, I said they're smart. They know how to get through the course and read fast, and they know how to retain information. That's what they do every day. So they label this a 20-hour course, but they can get it done.
But some doctors say, I don't even want the responsibility, so then I could find you a lab director. I actually qualify for moderate complex. I have 5 labs, plus all the rest I'm consultant for. So you can find a moderately complex lab director. But that's basically the only hurdle. And plus, when you have someone like me or another consultant in there, we do all the work. We present to the doctor at the end of the month or every 2 months things he needs to sign off on. My doctors never sit for the inspections. I tell her it's coming. They say, how did we do? I say, we did fantastic. And that's all. They just want to concentrate on healthcare.
Let's talk about 2 things quick. So you said all the work. What is all the work that goes into a moderately complex?
I'll tell you exactly. First, you got to pick the equipment that's appropriate for the practice. Now that we were determined it's going to make money. So then that's what we do. We pick the equipment. The biggest challenge is getting the lab personnel. There is a slight shortage, but I seem to be able to find people and really good.
He's also been in the business 35 years.
So. And a lot of people.
You have a network.
Yeah, I have a network. So that's basically the biggest challenge. We order the equipment. It comes in. We have the lab tech. The manufacturers install the equipment. They train the lab techs on site. Everything's on site now. I put all the books together. So, because we'll get inspected somewhere between 3 and 4 months after. I always guarantee my physicians a passing inspection.
What happened? Tell them what happens at inspection. What happens? Who's coming to do the inspection?
The New York State Department of Health comes in.
We're talking New York State because that's where we're based. And I think the good thing about this state, right, is like you can start a lab here, you can start one anywhere.
Yeah, they have a menu of things they're going to check. And let's make sure we have the QC set up. They're going to make sure we're calibrating equipment. They're going to make sure the manufacturers install the equipment properly. When we set up a laboratory, They install it, and we do comparative studies to other laboratories to make sure the quality is there. So, and then they look at the books. I write up the procedures and how to do all the tests. There's a quality assurance, which means you have to monitor a process. I won't get too into the weeds here. So they come in and look at all the records, and it's very hard to fail. You have to really try hard to fail, but the degree of passing, like I had an inspection before this, video.
Let's call it a sit down.
And zero deficiencies. My goal is to have zero deficiencies. Very hard to get zero deficiency, but now that I've been doing it for years and years, it happens more often than not. Maybe get 1 or 2 deficiencies, which means they don't close the lab. They just say, okay, Larry, tell me what you did to fix this that we found you were missing, And since I do it all the time, it's very far and few between. Mm-hmm. So, the inspection usually takes a half a day to a day, mostly a half a day for a new laboratory. And then we get the okay. And what's nice about New York State, where New Jersey doesn't allow this, you can, as soon as you get your clear certificate and everything's set up, you can go live. And then they come in and look. New York State comes in and see how you've been doing. New Jersey requires you to actually be pre-inspected by them first. And other states, you can go live until you get your inspection. So that's what happens. Then what I do is, that's part of my initial fee. And then I charge a monthly fee to stick around. You don't have to keep me, but usually I pay 10, whatever my cost is, the return investment is 10 times, because I keep the lab running smoothly. I take care of problems and make sure it's cost effective.
I've seen it. He keeps these things running like a well-oiled machine, and I haven't seen a single lab that you and I have set up over the years have any trouble.
When you have a good lab tech and everything's running smooth, very small problems occur. And I make sure that there's no pain. The doctor doesn't have to worry about the lab.
Space that I really like, and I'm seeing a big trend in, is women's health. I'm definitely seeing more of an interest now in STI testing.
Oh, yeah.
What are you seeing out in this space?
I'm seeing that. I've been setting up women's health organizations. It's very important to find out, if the woman has an STD, or they'll be doing cancer markers.
I think group B strep is big during pregnancy.
Yeah, so
you'll have that right there. As opposed to having to wait is tremendous value. And patients, they feel that. They know that when they can come to a practice that has all this stuff there, that's a practice that's taken itself here seriously. They want to provide the best for the patients.
During the pandemic, we were turning around COVID tests the same day, where they were waiting 3 or 4 days from Quest or LabCorp. So the fact that you have it on site, and you can set your whole lab to be stat, although I don't recommend it. Do stat on some of the patients that are really sick, because it's more cost effective to just run the normal routines. But yeah, to have it on site is excellent.
What else would you want people to know about setting up a laboratory in 2023? I mean, what's important for them to know if they're considering doing it on the fence? What would you say to them?
I would say if you have 3 or more providers, I would definitely look at it. If your insurance mix isn't strictly HMOs, but has a mixture of Medicare, GHI, you should consider it, because there is an investment. It's be the most expensive thing you run in the office, but it'll be the highest return on your investment. It's incredible. I've had doctors say, wow, my costs are a little more than I thought. And then when they look at the revenue, and they're like, oh my God, Larry, this is, And I also project revenue, which I don't know if you're allowed to do. I'm allowed to do. I always underestimate, so they can't.
Right.
Then never has a doctor come back to me and said, we're making less than you said. Matter of fact, when they make more, they don't even tell me.
Well, then they're happy, and then they're spreading the word of Larry Fox around to their colleagues, right? What haven't we touched on yet that you would want to tell any physician, practice administrator, group that may be watching about lab? If they're sending everything out today to Quest, to LabCorp, to these laboratories, they're not doing this. So, I mean, what would you say to them?
Well, I'd say that some of my labs are profiting, close to $1 million that they were giving to Quest. I mean, that's some of my real big ones. My smaller ones are still making 150, 200. They're the small ones of net profit a year that you really should look at. We won't set it up if it doesn't make sense, but that you really, and you're just shifting the revenue from the outside lab to your practice. And I don't know any doctors that would want to turn down a few $100,000 more a year in their practice.
Well, I think we hit on a lot of the topics with lab today. I think for anybody who's watching, if there's any questions that you have, that perhaps we didn't cover as it pertains to labs?
Did I mention my website if they wanted to go to
Give
it?
yourself a plug.
Well, my website is BLC, stands for Beyond Lab Consulting, blc-lab.com, and it talks all about laboratory. It even has, things about me, and if you just want to know about lab.
Check out Larry's website. If you're interested in lab, certainly go there.
And we can also show them labs. Like we can show them some of the labs I've set up.
We've done that before. We were setting one up in Westbury at a GYN lab, and we've taken them into another one in Big Borough Park, a huge women's health lab. So it's great because you can bring in, you can talk to the lab techs, you could talk to the physicians who run the lab and get a real understanding of whether or not it's an endeavor you want to pursue. So, Larry, I do appreciate it. Thank you for coming in, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much. Good stuff, Larry.